Hey.
Hey, happy Friday.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's Friday. It's a beautiful day here in Cincinnati. What's it like
Is
there in
it?
Dallas?
It is. This morning I woke up to the temperature being 34 degrees. Now, for those of you in the north, 34 degrees is like, hey, balmy, right? But not in Dallas.
Right.
So we woke up kind of freezing this morning.
Yeah, well, we've been having freezing nights, but we've been expecting it for a while. So that you're right. That is what we do. And it is that interesting time of year. You know, you and I were on a call earlier today where we were talking about harvesting things and composting and shedding. And when I think about the Great Resignation, there's a lot of that is going on too, right? People are shedding their old jobs, they're shedding their old life, they're shedding a lot of things. But before I jump into that, I just want to do a brief reintroduction of what we are trying to accomplish here for people who are new to watching, or people who will be watching the replay. So Liz Kitchell and I, we are the founders of SheMoolah, and SheMoolah is really designed to support women in reinventing themselves, which usually is related to the career and the financial aspects of it. And a lot of times women don't want to make the jump, especially if retirement or you got kids getting ready to go to college is in the windshield and you don't want to take that kind of risk. And we support you in creating the strategies and understanding the emotional issues that are behind why you do and you don't make the jump. And we've been doing this all week. We're going to continue doing it for the next month just to see what people want to know with regard to the Great Resignation. And we are not the be all end all experts, but we think it's important to have a place to come and talk about this really important conversation as women are like leaving the workforce in droves. And today I'm so excited to have Andrea Bednar with me at andreabednar.com. Andrea and I have known each other for, I don't even want to think about how many years it's been. They say that if it's more than 25, you shouldn't say that, but I think it's been more than 25.
Yes.
And she and I have worked together in lots of capacities and we're also great friends, but she is an executive coach and consultant. And Andrea, why don't you say a little bit about, your experience and why you wanted to participate in the conversation today?
Oh, great. Thanks. So here's what I'm working on now. I can tell you about stuff that I've done in the past, but this is what I'm working on now. And that is a lot of people are really searching for some calmness, some inner peace, calm down their anxiety. But it's not like they just want to sit and watch TV. I mean, we think we want to sit and binge watch whatever our latest favorite is, right? But really what we want is we want to make a difference, but we don't want to do it frenetically or anxiously or from I have to, or I'm in survival about how am I going to pay the bills or whatever. We want to be able to do it from this place of deliberateness, calmness, peacefulness, and yet still make the difference we want to make. So the thing that I really focus on is producing results, but not producing results at any expense, producing results at the same time as you are experiencing being extremely profoundly satisfied with yourself and your life. So making stuff happen and loving the life you have at the same time. No sacrifice to either. So that's what I'm up to. Now I've worked with Fortune 100 companies for 30 years. And yeah, I know, not supposed to say that, but it has been that long. And while I do some executive coaching, that's not the main part of my business. Now, mostly what I'm doing is consulting interventions in companies and translating that to people who might not be in a big company or who might not be part of their big company's push for this kind of development. And so I have stuff on my website, which is just for individuals, just you on your own. If that's what you need, you don't have to wait till your company says, oh, let's hire Andrea Bednar. So that's what I'm up to, Dawn. Now, let me tell you why Great Resignation is of interest to me to chat about. I talk to a lot of people every single day. And what I find is that no matter how happy, satisfied, settled people are, there's something going on. And that going on is a reevaluation. Is this really the life I want? Is this really how I want to do the life I think I want? What do I really want? And, like, how do I have that be like a place where I could make a difference, or a place that it matters what I do? And I think that the pandemic, this is, I think, a little bit of a silver lining for people, is the ability to start to see, wow, maybe I could actually ask myself these questions. So that's my little intro there.
Oh, no, well, I'm really, it's such an important thing, because that's really what Liz and I are trying to sort out, is to support people in that exact same conversation. Because I don't know, you mentioned that you work inside of, as a consultant in corporations who are probably on the other side, right? They're like, how do we keep people who are going through the now what if, how do I? And the people that you're often doing the interventions with are the ones who are trying to find that balance, right, between being productive and having a life that has meaning. So are you finding that there's some, so for those of you guys who are like new to the conversation, this is all unscripted. So I have a question for you, Andrea. Are you finding that there's a particular age or demographic that's got more of this going on than another?
Well, first, going back to what you said about organizations might be on the other side, the truth is they're not. Climate change, having to have, if you're over 100 people, having to have everybody vaccinated if you do business in the federal government, or if you, just if you have over 100 people, they have no idea. I mean, even if they have an idea, they're not sure of the impact. So even organizations are not settled. So now when I look at individuals, to answer your question specifically, what I find is that it's happening to everybody, but it seems to look a little bit different and maybe feel different depending on where you are. So if you're 20, or, somewhere in your 20s, and I'm thinking back to my 20s, which were a long time ago now, but, like we had this set future. Like you knew that there were certain things that you could do. And if you went to college, you would do this, and et cetera. They don't have that now. And not only do they not have that, but many people no longer work for these big companies, which when I was in my 20s, that's sort of what everybody did.
Right. And there was certainty. There was a certainty, right? You're going to have your pension or your retirement or something out there.
Right. Yeah. And you knew that you could get a job in whatever it was you were taking for your college degree. I mean, even people who were getting philosophy degrees, which can be tough to find a job with, weren't concerned about that. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I think, the people that I'm talking to in their 20s are really trying to find security. There just isn't any. And so the kind of level of anxiety, it doesn't manifest that way for everybody, but there's a certain level of anxiety from that. In your 30s, you're not so worried about what you're going to do going forward. You're worried about how do you maintain what you had, or your whole world is turned upside down. And now what am I going to do? In your 40s, you're like, wow, well, I had a good run. And now what? Or, well, I never settled. So maybe now's this really great opportunity to try something new. In your 50s, I'm finding, and I'm talking to people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s as well. And even in people's 70s, right? You would think, well, you got your retirement. No. So in the 50s, just to kind of do it chronologically, people are like, let me start my second wave. Like maybe I can retire from this, or now's the time where I really should pursue my passion thing, whatever that was. And then there's still a fear, like, do I have enough retirement? Do I have any retirement? Is there going to be such a thing as retirement? All those kinds of questions come up. And then also, what's the impact on my family? In your 60s, there are a lot of people, surprisingly enough, who are really looking at changing things up, doing something different. And for a lot of people in their 60s, this was the time when they thought, this is when I'm going to see the world. This is when I'm going to go, write my book, because I don't have to have this full-time job anymore. And now all of a sudden, it may not be like that.
Right. And then a lot of us lost so much in 2008, right? When the market crashed, and a lot of us are still rebuilding from that. That's insanity.
Right. And even in people's 70s and in the 60s too, because the pandemic has really made for many people made their mortality feel more present, right? Like, like I am over 60. What happens if I get COVID? And I have had COVID, so I kind of know what happens. But, there are a lot of people who have that question and like needing to be safe. And and then, and then there's others of us who don't feel that way at all. Like, no, I'm just going to keep living my life. And then we have this split where maybe you had these friends and now the friends are in a whole different place than you are about what the world looks like and how we should navigate it. It is really a time of, like in my lifetime, there's never been anything like this, at least in the United States. I can't say for outside, but.
Well, it reminds me, when you're talking about that and you said it's a time, and what I think about, when people were going through the Industrial Revolution, they weren't pondering this thing called, oh, this is the Industrial Revolution. Let's see what we're going to do next. We were able to look back and kind of put a line in the sand and said, this is when the Industrial Revolution started, right? And there'll be a time when people look back and say, oh, this is when the transformation of the workforce happened. We all thought that, companies, we all thought no one could work remotely. We didn't trust our employees. We weren't sure that things would get handled very well. There were so many reasons why we never went to a remote workplace, and overnight, everything changed. And because it had to. But one of the things that you talk about, and I'd really like to hear a bit about this, because we address this in our classes as well, right? You have a big dream, you know where you want to head. You can put some resources in place. You can kind of, we work with people to help them create their yellow brick road, right? Think about Dorothy and her shoes, and I want to go home. I want to go home, and I'm going to get to that wizard. She went through her flying monkeys and her Tin Man and her, all of that stuff, because she believed that she could get there. But that's because the past was so painful. She didn't want to stay in that world with the dead witch and all of that. She just knew where she wanted to go. She was so clear on where she wanted to head, that she was going to take that yellow brick road no matter what, right? But in today's day and age, a lot of times people are jumping because they've just had enough. They're fed up. But then there's the ones who can see where they want to go, and it's probably not even the first time that they had a thought about changing. But they don't always, they resist that change, right? So you do a lot of work with people on change resistance, and I'd love to hear your point of view on, how this has an impact, or whatever you'd like to share about resistance, especially when you can see a new, brighter future, but you feel like you're chained to the past for some reason.
Right. No, that's really good, Dawn, because there are people who want to change, and then they find that they either start trying to make the change and they get, like a rubber band pulled right back. This happens every year with New Year's resolutions to people. But then there's people who can't make the change. Like they say, no, I really want to. I want to quit smoking. I want to get a new job. I want to start writing my book. I need to get out of this relationship, whatever it might be. But they can't even seem to get it started. So there's a thing that was discovered by some Harvard researchers. They were actually looking at human development, just how adults continue to develop. That was their research. And what they discovered was this thing that's like a padlock that tries to keep us safe, tries to protect something about us. Now, that's a good thing, make sure that we, don't just tip our bicycle over when we're going down the street and fall down, and make sure that we, don't walk around in places where we don't feel safe after dark. It does do its job. The thing is that it perceives a lot of what we want to change as being a threat. So we call this little thing, I call it anyway, I don't know if anybody else does, a master governor, but it is almost invisible. Like we don't even know that we have it. And so one of the things that I work with people on is a initial five-step process. And the steps are all completely counterintuitive. The only step that's not counterintuitive is step one. And so one of the things I find that allows this master governor to keep doing its brilliant work in the background to keep you from being able to make any change which it perceives could be a threat to you. And the kind of threats that it's looking at when we're talking about change are threats where maybe we'll be embarrassed, we'll be humiliated, we'll fail, we will feel awkward, right? It'll be too uncomfortable. Those kinds of threats are particularly the ones where its invisibility is its brilliance.
So it's not like the kind of things you often hear about the dinosaur brain, right? Which is more about fight or flight and protection from death. But this is a subtle kind of death, humiliation and embarrassment but it's like a death, right? It feels like death. I would rather do anything than somebody to think I'm stupid. That's my thing. I don't anybody find out that I'm stupid. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Yeah. Keep going.
No, but you can hear like how useful it is to get at this. So on kind of a shallow level, you could talk about mindset, but where we look with mindset is the stuff we kind of already know about ourselves. Sometimes you discover something you didn't know already about your mindset. But if you're somebody sort of on this journey, you probably, have some clue about it. So we're not trying to find your mindset. So what we're really trying to find is what is the way your master governor perceives the things that you want to change, the things that you want to do. How does it perceive them? And how does it brilliantly keep you from making the change and sustaining it? So honestly, this first step is like, it seems like it should be a DUH, like duh, right? And that is defining what is the change. Because even when people think they know what I want to get a new job. Okay, that is not a useful change goal, quite honestly. It's way too vague. So the master governor has no problem knocking that one out of the park. Now, every once in a while, you can actually overcome. So the master governor only works on the stuff that it perceives that will put you in this embarrassment, humiliation, failure, whatever, right? Anything that's not impinging on that, not pushing on that, you can make those changes. So you might even be saying to yourself, well, I could say I'm going to get a new job and I'll get a new job. Then that change goal for you isn't one that your master governor is worried about. And everyone's master governor is worried about different stuff. So defining your change goal, and a way that I found that this works best for people is to define it as something that you want to get better at, not the way you want to define the outcome. That's not what we're actually at work on here. A new job is your outcome, but a new job is also the solution to something.
Oh, like a tool. It's like a tool versus I want to be financially free is right. I want to be successful in my job. So now I'm going to go get another job. It doesn't care about you going to get another job. But it's going to block anything about success. It's not going to block the tools is what it sounds like.
Right. Well, and the thing is, we can't get at what the master governor does or doesn't believe if our goal is too broad or if it's focused on an already existing solution. Because the minute we have a solution, get a new job is going to fix this thing, then the master governor still keeps its point of view hidden, and we just try and do stuff. And we can't figure out why the doing stuff doesn't work, right? And so what happens in this process is that we are clear about what our change goal is. And sometimes you think you are, and we get all the way through kind of the steps of the process and we go, what's missing here that we're not having an opening? Because you will have an opening if your change goal is well defined to begin with. You will. I've never seen it happen where people didn't. That's the beauty of this whole thing, is that it works every single time, except when we don't have a great change goal. And by great, I mean, you could have something you really want, but you really haven't defined it. So like one thing I had said when I was doing this process was, I just need to get better at marketing my business, right? Okay, but then I realized as I tried to do the process that I wasn't really getting anything that was that helpful. Went back, really good. I realized, okay, this is what I'm going to say. A consistent and regular habit of engaging with my marketing. That changed
Oh,
everything.
I just got goosebumps
You can
on
hear the
that.
difference, right?
That's a huge difference, right?
Right, right.
Okay. So then what happened in your brain and your body when you said that the first time?
I was like, oh, well, I should know how to fix this. Okay, by the way, that's one of the little secrets of the master governor. It immediately tells you what you need to do, but it's protecting, it'll tell you to do stuff that won't activate the stuff that you're actually worried about or that your master governor is worried about. So it'll say, oh yeah, well, just do this, just do that, right? Okay, the things it'll tell you to do, for me anyway, are mostly things I've already tried, but now I'm going to try them harder. I'm going to be more of a hero about this. I'm going to have more willpower, right? So the next step of the process is simply to look at what you actually do and what you actually do not do that get in the way of this goal that you have, of this change goal, of this improvement goal, right? That actually, now we start to get, now if you thought defining it might be difficult, because some people do, the second step can really be difficult because we almost always want to put our judgment in there. Oh, I'm lazy and I spend all night watching TV. That is not actually what you are doing. It's what you think about what you're doing, and that does not belong in the process. So you might say, I spend 3 hours, 4 nights a week binge watching television. That is what you're actually doing or not doing, if it is. But it's not, it doesn't have my opinion
Doesn't have
about
the judgment, right? It's a
Right.
fact.
And that's hard to find, is what are the facts, because the master governor jumps in there and it'll start giving you these judgments, because we'll fixate on, I shouldn't feel so guilty. I shouldn't feel bad about myself. I'm a good person. Let me look in the mirror and say great affirmations to myself, right? And then we don't know why those affirmations don't, damn it, turn into the results we want.
That's right.
But the master governor's in the background, he, gotcha, right? And we don't even know it. Right.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really interesting how the interplay of the whole thing. So, like what I discovered was, one of the things I looked at was, well, I don't get to my desk until a certain time of day. That's a fact. And then I would say probably it's 4 days a week that I do that. But then I actually looked. I did some check. Well, is it that or isn't it that? And I realized, oh yeah, it's 5 days a week. It's not 4. It's 5 days a week. I don't get to my desk until 10 a.m. This was a couple of years ago. And then I had a whole bunch of doing and not doing. One of my not doing was, and I didn't even want to write it down. It was, I don't hire anybody to help me with it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to do that. My business is small, don't have the money, whatever. Right. Then I went through the rest of the process, discovered, really what the master governor's point of view is. It is like the Wizard of Oz, like you were talking about. It's like the curtain pulls back and you see the guy back there and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's what you look like. That's who you were. That's what's holding me back. And you really get it. When you see what the picture is that your master governor has of the world, sometimes people just cry. It's so real and so true for them. And they never said it that succinctly, like, oh my gosh, that is exactly what it is. So having gone through all of that, seeing some of that really almost by accident, a very interesting thing. I have a daughter-in-law who runs a marketing company. Hello. Like, how did I not put that stuff together before that, right? So out of doing this work, I did something that I would never have done without going through the process. And I hired my daughter-in-law's company. And and I said, 6 months, I want to do it on a trial basis and we'll kind of see what happens, right? At the 6-month mark, I said, I'd like to continue for another 6 months because this is making a difference. I was certain I couldn't afford it. But I said, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to figure out how to pay for it, right? And within the 1 year time, they had completely rebranded me, got my website up, had me have a Black Friday sale, which was fantastic, brought new clients to my business, got me to do things that I hadn't been doing because they needed them in order to do their work. So then I had to do my consistent and regular marketing. And what I didn't realize when I had that goal was I didn't have to be the one to do the consistent and regular marketing and to
Got
get a
it.
full rebrand. And in the year, since I took them on, now next year will be my best year ever. And next year, I will bring in just currently what's on the books, more revenue, gross revenue, than I have made in the 8 years I've been in business combined. Next year,
Wow.
already on the books.
And that's a significant, that part of that is by recognizing the governor and the conversation that the
Yes.
governor is having. Wow.
And
Okay.
being
Did you do this
able
by
to
yourself?
make the change. Yes, I did do it by myself, but I was trained, I'm certified to run the process. You know, it was developed by these people doing the adult development at Harvard, Lisa Leahy and Robert Keegan. And so I went and got certified. I mean, I've been doing the work with other people for 8 years now. And but I decided I wanted to learn how to do it for groups, not just individuals. So I went and took the certification for that. And then, yeah, I actually consider it, of all the work that I've done in 30 years, this work is probably the most transformational of anything that I do. And then what I've discovered, and this was kind of on my own, is that even once you see all of this, the master governor is stronger than your intention. Be nice to say it wasn't that your intention can overcome, but that's just heroic thinking. It's not what has to change. It's not how you have to do it. We all have a Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone is, in terms of our development, it's either too hard, too soft, or it could be just right. So what I do with people once we discover all of this is we take on a series of experiments so that they can move into the just right zone. Because if they reactivate their master governor, show is over even when they know all of this. You have to have the final step, which is the experimental step.
Okay, so it is 11:28. We have 2 minutes left. Here's what I would like to hear from you in these last 2 minutes. So one, I want to make sure people know how to reach you. I put your website in, but if there's an email or anything like that, and if you want to come back to have other conversations with me about the Great Resignation. So can you just now take this conversation we've just been having and tie it to the Great Resignation? Like,
Yes.
before you jump, is there like a before you jump, or if you've already jumped, what's going on? How would you like
Yeah,
to tie
either way, be really clear about what it is you actually think you want, and be clear if you don't know yet, and give yourself a certain amount of time to figure out what you want, because you might not want what you think you want right now, and it's okay to change that. So don't worry if you say you want something, then you start doing some work on it, you go, that's not it. But when you do if you really do know what you want, and you're trying to make the change and you're finding it's just you're a little stopped or you're completely stuck, then absolutely do the process. And yeah, so that's what I would say is you don't have to go it alone. Like, make the changes you want to make. Like, really, if not now, when? There is no other time. We don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now.
That is so true. And Andrea, what you're saying is really great, because what happens, the program that we have, this big program, and that we're so excited about, and we're probably going to have some Black Friday pricing, everybody, but it's the Money Master Plan Mastermind. But what it really is where do you want to be in 5 years? And then what do you need to be doing now to move yourself forward? But quite often we just think, I want to be happier. I want to have more money. I want to be able to travel. Well, your master governor is not going to be able to fight against it. But when you actually go to take a step called, well, how much money do I need? And what exactly do I want to be working on? It's important to start to create the vision. And we that got shut down for a lot of us back when we left college, and they said, oh, now you have your degree. Yeah, we used to say for 21 years, we said you can do anything, you can be anything, but now you have your degree, go get a job and make money. And we've lost the ability to really dream and vision, and your governor shuts it down. So let's keep talking about that, right?
Yeah,
If you wanna
absolutely.
come back
Happy
next
to.
week or the week after, let me
Yep.
know, but
Sure.
you can reach Andrea at her website, andreabednar.com. Her email is andrea@andreabednar.com. You can always reach us at SheMoolah@gmail.com. And Andrea, thank you so much for taking time out of
Yeah,
your.
so much fun to talk to you.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you everybody later. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.